Thanks for joining me, everybody. Appreciate that. Uh, Running a little late this week on some videos. Haven't done a lot of news. I got about 3 stories I'll probably try to get done today sometime, and gonna get this and the newsletter out this morning. Get my swim in. I have some place to go with my wife this afternoon, so this evening I'll get my news articles updated. Anyway, I'm excited this week about the Astronomer of the Week. It's Annie Jump Cannon, the woman who classified the universe, we'll call it. So at one point in her life, she got scarlet fever. She became nearly deaf, and she was working in a field really dominated entirely by men. However, Annie Jump Cannon, because of all the circumstances in her life, really had every reason just to stay in the shadows of history, just to probably be like a lot of us, just living our lives, just doing our day-to-day thing with our families, and moving forward with our life. Instead, though, she revolutionized astrophysics. She's known as one of the Harvard computers. She possessed a near superhuman ability to see patterns in life where others saw chaos. OBAFGKM, to most people today, these are just a string of letters put together, right? However, to astronomers, this is the DNA of the universe. This classification system, the backbone of modern stellar physics, was perfected by Anne Cannon. By the end of her career, she had cataloged more stars than any human being in history, well over 350,000 stars. This story highlights Annie Jump Cannon's journey from becoming a stargazer in Delaware to becoming the census taker of the sky. It's her story of how her individual brilliance and persistence brought order to the chaos. And I think that's a key thing. One of the things I love about doing these Astronomers of the Week is many of them face very difficult circumstances. Some didn't. Some were born to privilege, but they all found a niche and a love and pursued it. And I think there's a message there for a lot of us. We should pursue those things in life that we're really passionate about. Here she is as a young woman. She was born on December 11th, 1863 in Dover, Delaware. Annie Jump Cannon's passion for the stars was sparked by her mother, Mary Jump, who taught her the constellations from their attic window. They would go up there, look through the window, and her mom would point out the constellations, and she learned them with her mom. She was a brilliant student. She eventually attended Wellesley's College, where she studied physics and astronomy under Sarah Frances Whiting. Her path to professional astronomy, though, was not immediate. After graduating in 1884, she spent a decade traveling and mastering the art of photography, even to publishing a book of her travels in Spain titled In the Footsteps of Columbus. However, two major life events redirected her back to science. She got a bout of scarlet fever, which I mentioned, that left her nearly deaf, and the death of her mother in 1894 was very impactful to her. Seeking a new start, she returned to Wesley as a teaching assistant and later enrolled at Radcliffe College to gain access to the superior telescopes at the Harvard College Observatory. In 1896, Cannon was hired by somebody that we'll talk about in one of these, Edward C. Pickering, as part of the Harvard Computers, a group of women tasked with mapping and classifying every star in the sky. It was here that she made her most enduring contributions. The Harvard classification scheme, before Cannon, star classification was confusing mix of systems. She simplified and refined earlier methods into that OBA-FGKM system, which categorized stars by their temperature and spectral type, from the hottest O stars to the coolest M stars. This system was so effective that the International Astronomical Union formally adopted it in 1922, and it remains the standard classification method used by astronomers even today, well over 100 years later. A census of the stars, Cannon was remarkably efficient, once classifying stars at a rate of 3 per minute. Imagine that. Over her career, she manually classified, like I said, approximately 350,000 stars, more than any other person in history. Her work was published in a massive 9-volume Henry Draper catalog, an essential reference for modern astrophysics. Beyond classification, she discovered 300 variable stars, 5 novas, and 1 spectroscopic binary. Here she is, awards and honors. Despite her massive contributions, Cannon faced gender barriers of her time. She worked as an assistant for decades before finally being named the William Cranch Bond Astronomer at Harvard in 1938, just 2 years before her retirement. Her accolades, however, were historic. She was the first woman to receive an honorary doctorate from Oxford University in 1925. In 1931, she became the first woman to receive the Henry Draper Medal from the National Academy of the Sciences, and she established the Anti-Jump Cannon Award, which continues today to recognize outstanding research by women in astronomy. Some fun facts about her: her superhuman speed. She was so skilled at classifying stars that she could categorize them, like I said, at a rate of 3 per minute. And some reports suggested she reached up to 300 stars per hour. She only needed to glance at a star's spectral pattern for a few seconds to know exactly where it belonged, and she was accurate. The "Oh, be a fine girl" mnemonic, to help students remember the OBA-GFKM classification sequence, ordered from hottest to coolest. She helped popularize the famous mnemonic, "Oh, be a fine girl, kiss me," and that remains a famous memory aid in all of astronomy. It's actually taught in grade schools here in the States. Kind of been modified a little bit. She had a passion for travel photography long before being a world-famous astronomer. Like we mentioned, she was an amateur photography. 1892, she traveled through Europe with a Blair box camera, documenting her journey. Her photos were so high quality that they were used as illustrations in a pamphlet for the Blair Camera Company at the Chicago World's Fair in 1893. Over her lifetime, like we said, she manually classified more stars than any human being in history, roughly 350,000. If you were to count 350,000 out loud, one number per second, it would take you over 97 hours of nonstop counting just to reach her total. And then a lunar legacy. She's one of the few people to have a permanent place of real estate in space. In honor of her contributions to the field, a lunar crater on the edge of Moon's Mare Crisium was officially named the Cannon Crater by the International Astronomical Union. Anti-Jump Cannon never married, never had a family. She passed away on April 13th, 1941, and today her legacy lives on every time an astronomer refers to a G-type star like our Sun and looks at the lunar crater named in her honor. As we classify stars, as we look at them, we can thank Anti-Jump Cannon for her contribution to astronomy. She truly rose above the challenges of her day and made a major contribution pursuing her passion. And again, I think there's a message there for all of us. Thanks for joining me. I'll catch you next time. Hope you have clear skies. I've had wonderful skies this week, so now I'm probably behind. I was only behind about 3 or 4 observing reports. Now I'm probably behind about 6. And next week's even looking awesome, so I'll be gone a lot next week as well. Probably heading to a really dark sky here in Utah. We'll catch you later. Thanks for joining me.